Good morning. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Ishwak Isa from ABSA, and I'll be your moderator for today. So to begin with, I'm truly honored to be here, and not just as a moderator, but also as a proud Muslim woman. And because this is a very personal topic or conversation that goes beyond banking, our theme today is driving inclusive growth through Sharia-compliant innovation. And this reminds us of our faith and progress and not in conflict. I'm joined by three incredible panelists who are going to make this happen. First, we have Zayad Davis. This is the Chief Marketing Officer from Sub-Saharan Africa Visa, with over 25 years of experience leading the customer-driven information. We have Tego, our Head of Islamic Banking at ABSA, a veteran in the space and with almost 20 years of experience, and not just a banker, but also a lecturer, a writer. And lastly, we have Sheikh Sukian, a respected Islamic scholar and a member of the ABSA Sharia board. Yes, so we can kick off and dive into the questions. Our panelists ready? Okay. So I can give a brief moment for them to just say a word or two before we kick off the questions. We can start with Sheikh as we go to Tech.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To the moderator, Sheikh Sukian is not here. This is Sheikh Ibrahim Lekome.
My apologies.
No, it's okay. I know because of the problem, because of the death of the Chief Qadi of Kenya. Sheikh Sukian is the Deputy Chief Qadi of this country, so we had to go for the burial. So I'm not Sheikh Sukian, but I will try to fit in his big shoes. I'm happy to be here in this panel, representing the Sharia Advisory Committee of River ABSA. And I know one of the biggest problems that we have, Islamic banking is something new in many countries. So there is always that information gap. And sometimes, because people don't have the knowledge, they tend to speculate, or sometimes they decide to give their own answers to what they think Islamic banking is and what Islamic banking is not. So I always say we need to invest a lot in information sharing for the purpose of correcting misconceptions. One thing I have to tell you, when we tell people that Islam is a complete way of life, that is exactly what it is. I want you to think about this. Life without finances. You'll find that even some forms of worship, you will not be able to perform them if you do not have finances. And for some of them, like the pillar of zakah, it's all about resources. So we're here to answer your questions and also correct misconceptions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheikh. Tego.
Thank you very much, Swap. I was on this podium since morning. And just in addition to what Sheikh Ibrahim before said, over the experience that I've had in Islamic banking over the years, especially in Islamic banking, I usually make one interesting observation. You come across customers, friends, workmates, especially Muslims. They have made haram so many halal things unknowingly, and they have made halal so many haram things mixed. You ask a very simple question and someone tells you, and we have those three questions, the question that very obvious people make mistakes. That's what I've observed. Even as an outside the bank, as a lecturer, I've had students passing through during my years of training Islamic finance, Islamic banking at the university. We have that challenge. And to cure that, not just asking questions and going to study, I really wish to welcome our customers to challenge Islamic banks, Islamic bankers, and the scholars in those countries. Keep challenging them. The more we challenge each other, the more knowledge grows. And that's why we're here today, this kind of discussion. Tell you about what we have for you, and also impart some little knowledge and also learn from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tego. Proceed.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's a really great privilege for us as Visa to be a part of this launch. I think from my perspective, to see the advancement of Sharia-compliant banking in a credit product enabled by Visa is really a testament, I think, to the fact that technology is catching up with the Sharia. And I think that's really something for us to take great advantage of. Sometimes it gets positioned that the modern world is bringing something innovative, but the reality is that Sharia came first, and the modern world is catching up. And I think as Visa, we can say that our technology is finally caught up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, fellow panelists. So just to kick us off with the questions, we have a few questions for each panelist. And lastly, we'll have a few minutes for quick fire questions from you, customers. So please feel free to note some questions down as you listen to the conversation. So today's launch is all about the revamp of the Lariba proposition. So that's Timiza and our credit card. Our first question goes to Sheikh. So Sheikh, let's begin with the foundation. And could you speak to the role of the Sharia board in reviewing and approving these financial products? And how the newly revamped Lariba proposition aligns with the Sharia principles?
Thank you very much for that question. Yeah, of course, the importance of the Sharia Advisory Board and its role. You've heard Tego and all the speakers mention the Sharia Advisory Committee, or in some institution, it's called the Sharia Advisory Board. This is a body of independent Sharia scholars, Muslim Sharia scholars, and I have to emphasize that because we can have scholars of Sharia or Muslims. It has to be people who believe in what it is they are using to advise financial institutions offering Sharia-compliant services and products. So we are an independent body of scholars, and this is a requirement globally that for an institution to offer services and products that are Sharia-compliant, there must be a panel of independent. Again, underline the word independent, whereas Tego and the other teams in Lariba are employees of the bank. We are not employees of the bank, but we work with the bank. We advise the bank. So that independence is very important so that whatever advice we give to the bank, whatever we approve as Sharia compliant is not influenced by maybe I want to save my job, I want to please my boss. No. The agreement between the Sharia Advisory Board and the bank is that whatever advice that is given by the Sharia Advisory Committee is final and binding on the bank. So our role is limited to three. The team sitting in the bank, Rahim, Hassan, and the others, they come up with propositions. They propose a product, of course, need-driven. Because we are talking about innovation, and innovation is all about responding to the needs, the emerging needs of the people. So they come up with a proposition, like they did with this very innovative product of a Sharia-compliant credit card. It is then tabled before the Sharia Advisory Committee, and if we find it to be Sharia-compliant, we approve it. If it is not Sharia-compliant, of course, we raise issues of why we think it is not Sharia-compliant. Of course, we are not guided by our whims. We are guided by the sources of Sharia, the Quran, the Sunnah, the views of reputable scholars in Islam, and if there are amendments to be made, we approve. We are also concerned about the implementation stage. We want to make sure that it is also implemented in a Sharia-compliant manner. Then at the end, also periodically, we do what is called Sharia review or audit. The purpose here is to ensure that whatever is churned out to the people, given out to the people, like now the products that have been given out here, like the card, the credit card. Our work is to ensure, to the best of our knowledge, that it is Sharia compliant. I usually tell people this. I tell Tego, and anyone who has worked with us in this sector, we tell them we are answerable before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I want you as Muslims to look at it this way. When a product is offered out there, the customers, we come in between to cushion the consumers and tell them, consume this. To the best of our knowledge, it is halal. Meaning we are answerable before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to demonstrate this, we are talking about this credit card, Sharia-compliant credit card. The bank had to test it with us. Actually, all the members of the Sharia Advisory Committee have that card. And we don't want to preach to people what we do not believe in. In my wallet now, I added a new card yesterday. And this is the Sharia-compliant credit card because to the best of our knowledge, we've done our research, we have consulted scholars within and outside, and inshallah, it is Sharia-compliant. So that is what we do. Now, the alignment of innovations, new innovations and Islam. When you look at the purpose of Sharia, the purpose of Sharia is to ensure the well-being of humanity. The word in Sharia is maslaha, well-being. And when you look at maslaha, it entails two things here. Bringing forward what is good, jalbil maslaha, wa daf'il mafsada, and make sure the harms are kept away. And again, Sharia is about making life easy. That is the purpose of Sharia. Yuridu Allahu bikumul yusr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to make it easy for you. Allah did not intend that our life is hard. That's why today we used to have minarets to amplify our voices in the mosque. But through the blessings of Allah, people innovated the public address system. Today we do not need it. Watch the imams today as they give their khutbah. No papers. Somebody will just climb on the mimbar with an iPhone or an iPad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the source of knowledge, so we believe innovation is not in conflict with Sharia. Innovation is actually in conformity with Sharia, that gradually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with time brings forth people with knowledge, and we keep on innovating, and there is no end to it because eventually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the source of knowledge. That's why we say, وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. Above a knowledgeable person, there is another one who is more knowledgeable, and eventually the absolute knowledge belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is very much, innovation is very much in conformity with Sharia, as long as it is guided by Islamic principle. Avoid riba because it is haram. Make sure there is no uncertainty, it's clear. Avoid gambling. Don't deal with anything that is haram. Guided by what? By the creator of the world himself. And I'll end up with this. Today, if you buy a Toyota vehicle, I know many ladies would have problems with their husbands if they buy them a Probox. I don't know why. Probox. I don't know why that car is hated, but it's a very popular car in my county, Kajiado. The manufacturer of the Toyota Probox is the Japanese. When you buy it, it comes with a user's manual offered by the manufacturer himself. I am yet to see a very creative Somali or Kikuyu or any Kenyan who would go against the guidance given by the manufacturer, the Japanese. It tells you put petrol in the tank. You cook black tea and put in the tank, the vehicle will move. For the Somalis, you put susa in the engine instead of oil, it won't move because the Japanese did not intend susa instead of oil. So we follow the instructions of the manufacturer. وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى أَلَا يَعْلَمْ مَنْ خَلَقَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator, knows best. So innovations is strictly in line with the teachings of the creator himself, actually is in conformity. Actually, it is a requirement because Islam stands for making life easy, and these innovations make our life easy. I rest my case.
Thank you, Sheikh. That was a very insightful answer, and I think this gives confidence to everyone that one of our Sharia board member already has a credit card, and this should make you feel confident that it's Sharia compliant. So moving on to the product strategy, Tego. Congratulations on the revamp today. A very good job done. So the question to you would be, what inspired this transformation of the Lariba revamp, and what gaps had you noted in the market, and what are you solving for, especially our SME type customers and individuals?
Thank you very much, Shrab, for that. First, we are the oldest Islamic brand in the banking sector in this country. We saw a gap back then. That was 20 years ago. Our MD earlier mentioned that in August this year, we'll be marking our 20th year anniversary for Islamic banking in the country. The 6 million or so Muslims in this nation, we are very lucky to be in Kenya because Kenya is a very progressive country that gives us enough space to practice Islamic finance and any other things that align with our faith. After 20 years, of course, as you move with our business every day, we interact with you, we interact with ourselves internally and with our scholars, we always see gaps. Maybe, for instance, because of the absence of the digital financial solution which is Sharia compliant, our clients have been very challenged. They either have to apply the manual facilities and wait for the long period for the analysis to go through, or in some unfortunate cases, some of them are forced to take the conventional digital product. So in the spirit of inclusion, because that's one of the things we strongly believe in APSA, that everyone matters. Every story, there's no small or a big story, there's no small or a big need to us. That's why we send it to our customers. Also enjoy the digital product that other customers are enjoying. Similarly, we brought in the credit cards. Because the credit cards, as they were, had some Sharia reservations. We cannot block our customers out just because the products are not Sharia compliant. We come in, we consulted our scholars, who further consulted other scholars in the country and outside the country, and we brought in the product to solve both the individual and the business needs that you have. Remember, in my opening remarks, I said Sharia compliance is a mandatory ingredient of any product. But that product must solve a need. It must bring prosperity, it must solve a problem. And that is why we brought in this product. Sometimes it's not easy to develop and also explain it to them or roll it out to you. However, your needs are paramount to us. That's why we've really taken this time and energy to roll out the product and also have this meeting here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Tego, maybe just a follow-up question from my side before we move to Zaid. What key piece of information or any insights were you able to get from customers, or any feedback that influenced this revamp?
Thank you. If I got your question right, what insights or questions have you got from the customers? Of course, the primary questions that you had today from the audience, I will call back, is from morning, I think, since the interaction we've been having, the question people have been asking is this really Sharia compliant? Then if you answer the question, they ask now, how is it Sharia compliant? And I think I explained earlier, for a transaction in Islamic bank to be Sharia compliant, one of the fundamental rules is there must be a real trade. There must have been something that is bought and sold, and that thing should not be money. In Islamic economics, money is not a commodity. Said money is a means of exchange, it's a unit of measure, it's a store of value. You don't sell money. If you must sell money in Islamic finance, if you must, then we say that cost. I give you $1 million, you return $1 million. But now, in the Quran, we are told, Allahu Bay, Baqarah 275, God has permitted trade. So which means, whatever we do must have an underlying trade. That's why we say, in normal murabba, you come and I buy you this water, you take your water home and you drink it, and I charge you profit on the water. But in mobile and credit card, you need that cash. Let's say in mobile bank, you need that liquidity. So we can, the same murabba will just buy you, in our case, we are doing airtime. We buy airtime, we give it to you, but you don't need the airtime, you need money. What do? We have dealers in our panel that can sell the airtime for instantly. So the airtime is sold, the money is availed. Trade has happened, if not sold money, we sold airtime to you. It might not be easy to understand the concept at first here, especially if you don't heard about the Tawar contract. But what I challenge the audience, especially those who have been asking me the questions, what the insight I got is, one, you cannot understand. I remember one of the customers explaining to him, he told me, the Merewa 78%, I don't know how he measured 78. But I would challenge him to go online after this, just open about on Google, Tawar contract, Tawar, T-A-W-A-R-U, Tawar. Just read about Tawar contract. These Islamic contracts, they were not made by Islamic banks, and they are not made for Islamic banks. They are just there, you can also use it. But banks have found them in the books and decided to use them. So just go read about Tawar, and then having understanding of Tawar, maybe you can ask further questions. So those are the questions I got. But of course, majority of the team that are met here are very enthusiastic, and I'm hoping that our team from Dimisa is already within the floor, connecting those who are ready to connect, download the app so that they can test the product here, and even raise practical questions before we end the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Teko. Ziad, we can move on to you and just zoom out a bit. Visa has been a long global leader in payments. So, what role do payment solutions play in enabling inclusive financial solutions, particularly in the market in Kenya?
So, thank you. Like you say, Visa has been in the payments industry for many, many decades, and equally in the payments ecosystem of Kenya for a long time. Fundamentally, at Visa, we believe that driving an inclusive financial ecosystem through payments that's built on trust, security, and of course technology innovation is paramount. And I think when we consider a partnership like this and being part of a product proposition like this, it's also about the thoughtful intersection of technology to enable something that's actually could seem quite niche, but I think one of the speakers that spoke earlier spoke about the fact that this proposition applies to everyone. And really that's the angle I would double click on from a Visa perspective, is that we look at innovation through the lens of how can we help consumers and merchants, and of course our banking partners, interact within the financial ecosystem in a way that is secure, safe, but of course inclusive. So our innovation really is not centered from technology for technology's sake, but technology that solves a problem or creates an opportunity.
That's very well answered. Maybe just a follow-up question on my side. Do you think there's any opportunity to launch a business card, considering we have a lot of SME type customers, and also what other markets have been successful with such a proposition, with everything that you're doing with yes?
Absolutely. The answer to your first question is yes. Right? The market is very fertile to bring a product like this to market, a business credit card for SMEs. Of course, the ability to help with cash flow, to help drive how a business grows, really sits at the heart of this. And I think, I'll just repeat a quote that was shared earlier. SMEs power 80% of employment in Kenya. So that scale is clear that the product should be successful. And then on your second question, so is Visa across our Central Europe, Middle East, Africa region, of which Sub-Saharan Africa is a part. We have a number of clients, particularly in the GCC states, that have launched similar propositions, and we've seen the success of those products, and I really believe that we will bring the very best of what we learn to bear in this partnership.
Thank you. I think that's well informed. I think we'll give this chance to the customers or anyone in the room for a quick question. We'll have someone with a mic. I think I see a hand up. Please just direct your question to the panelists that you want your question to answer.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Nabil Abdullah from Al Huda TV, and I have a few questions for the head of Islamic banking and the Shariah-Compliant. So for Mr. Tego Lowassa, how does this launch align with the Kenya financial inclusion agenda of Vision 2030? And the question, what regulatory frameworks have you had to navigate or adapt in this relaunch? And also, what customer needs or gaps are you addressing through this relaunch also? Can you hear me?
Your voice is not clear. I think the mic is so close to your mouth.
Sorry.
So you can hear you, but you cannot understand.
Now can you hear me? Now is it okay? Yeah? Okay. How does this launch align with Kenya's financial inclusion agenda or of Vision 2030? And also, what are the regulatory frameworks that you have had to navigate or adapt to this new relaunch? That's for Mr. Tego Lowassa. For Dr. Lipome, how often does the board review or audit products to ensure ongoing compliance? And how do you address ethical concerns raised by clients who may question the authenticity of Islamic banking within the larger commercial banking sector? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think if I got you right, the first question is about how we ensure inclusion. The second is about the regulatory framework, right? Thank you. I think, interestingly, one of our key pillars in ABSA is inclusion. Not inclusion, not just only from the religious perspective, also inclusion from many other perspectives. Every individual in this country really matters to us. That's why I repeat the message every time to everyone is our story matters. So by bringing in the Islamic product, we are actually including the 6 million plus Muslims that are in the country who, because of their religious conviction, might not be able to access the conventional product that we have. And mark you, other banks came much later, 3-4 years later, after ABSA has already rolled out Islamic banking. That foresight was not only advised by the Sharia compliance, but it was advised by our inbuilt inclusion pillar that you look at. So we are hopeful that as the industry expands, as we bring in more products, as we move forward, then we realize existing product is a gap again in their needs, whether it's in business or personal needs. We bring in more and more products so they can solidify the inclusion that we've had. And again, when you look at the regulatory framework in the country, that has been
Go again.
The future of agenda vision 2030. The full question was, how does this launch align with the Kenyan financial inclusion agenda of Vision 2030?
By including, because one of the key pillars, of course, we have in the Mission 2030 is inclusion. How do you bank everyone? Traditionally, if you look back in Kenya just a few years ago, there's a very small segment of the population that actually were bankable. And the reason why only a small segment is bankable is because the product that are there in the bank are not tailored for everyone. But as we move forward, banks have actually been embracing more and more, expanding that horizon. So as we move to 2030, which is actually just 4 years from now, it's actually, when Vision 2030 was being drafted, I remember it looked like it was like in the next century or something like that. But we are there. I think in the next 3-4 years, Vision 2030 is there. And that's why, as a bank, first of all, as APSA, look at it generally, since we rebranded from Barclays to APSA, there's this deliberate focus towards making sure that everyone is included. If you look at our branch expansion, for instance, we've been adding more and more branches. For instance, we are going to have a new branch in Wajir this year, in August, hopefully. So we are doing both lateral and vertical integration of every segment that is there. So by so doing, as a bank, we have contributed towards including everyone and making sure that every segment in the country. In August, again, I think, as it was mentioned earlier, we are going to have the women proposition. That again will enhance our existing inclusion pillar, where the Muslim women population that might have been left out of the wider banking fraternity will be included again by bringing the card. So every step that we are taking is a piece. It's a piece that fills the jigsaw towards ensuring that the inclusion that is envisioned in Vision 2030 is done from our point of perspective. And on to the question of the regulatory framework, we've been making back and forth steps. And one of the key reasons why, as a bank, we've taken a step to have the annual Islamic Finance Conference, which inshallah will have the first one in August this year, is to try and add some fuel and energy to the realization of the framework. We took part in the creation of the Association of Islamic Banking Practitioners. We had it launched this year. We had it launched this year. We are actually one of the key sponsors, so that becomes a mouthpiece for the Islamic banking fraternity in Kenya. Actually, Islamic finance covers insurance, SACCOs, capital market, pension, and the banks. We had some white papers drafted in Kenya in 2018 for Islamic Banking Act, Islamic SACCO Act, Islamic Pensions Act, Islamic Capital Market Act, and Islamic Insurance Act in 2018. But those white papers were never progressed. I think we are hoping that soon they'll move to Parliament and they'll become act of Parliament. The operation that we have in Kenya today for Islamic banking, we are operating mainly on waivers of Section 12(s). Because the law prohibits banks from buying and selling goods. The law prohibits banks from doing real estate business. For an Islamic bank, if you want to do that business, because the underlying verse for us, the sweeping verse is God has permitted trade, and has prohibited usury. So for us to do trade, then we have to go to the government and get a waiver of Section 12(a) and 12(c), which in essence just gives us a check that we can buy and sell. If we wanted today in La Riva, we can open a restaurant, we can build houses and sell. So yes, we've not had much progress in terms of the regulatory framework, but we've formed the lobby group, and which will also be launched in August. And that lobby group is for the whole industry. Again, we are leveraging on the wave of Section 20A as also of the banking at the moment. However, even having said that, the lack of regulatory framework that we're having is not having any hindrance on the banking sector. It is only slowing down the best practice. For instance, we are not being forced in the country to trade on interest. We are allowed to buy and sell on profit. There's no barrier to Islamic banking because of lack of regulatory framework. The lack is only contributing towards slowing down of realization of maqasid Sharia. Because Sharia, the haram and the halal in itself has a purpose. There's a reason riba was made haram, not in itself. Being made haram is so that there's a progress in the economy. There's a problem, we're supposed to be protecting a lot of things. So it is only slowing that bit. However, from this gathering, perhaps the Sharia board here and the audience will gather more energy so that in the August conference, we'll be able to bring in the industry players, the government, so that and push this agenda forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The Sharia question, how often do we carry out the Sharia review by got it right? How often do we return?
Yes, how often do you review and audit products to ensure they're compliant?
Oh, okay. Let me begin by saying this. First of all, it is a continuous activity throughout the year. We do review, but sometimes we do designate specific meetings just for review. Unknown to all of you, for the last 3 days, actually, we spend our days at the headquarters, ABSA headquarters. We were doing a major review for all our processes since the launch of Riba 20 years ago. We were actually looking at all the processes, all the contracts, and because we say knowledge keeps on changing, even you look at the IOFI standards that guide Islamic finance globally, you look at them, those who have the version that was produced maybe 5 years ago, you'll be surprised if you look at them today, they are different. The number of standards keep on growing. So we also keep on reviewing our processes, our contracts. Okay? So it's a continuous process. We have our meetings quarterly. Our scheduled meetings are quarterly. We just finished our third quarter, or our second quarter. We have 2 more quarters to go. So as and when the need arises, we also review. One thing that you need to know, the Sharia Advisory Committee also is always on call. We are always on call, and sometimes we might be forced, even mid-term, even when we don't have a review meeting, a scheduled review meeting, to meet or even consult online to review a product just because somebody has raised something. And because of the sensitivity of Sharia products, then we are forced to review that and maybe see the extent of our compliance. Maybe if there is non-compliance, we correct it immediately. So that is what we do. And that's why we are always on call, because a need might arise where we need to review maybe a product, a process, or maybe because of something that has come up from IOFI or anywhere else in the world we might want to review. I'll give you an example. When Islamic banking started in this country, most of the banks were offering the Tawarruk product, monetization, by using the London Metal Exchange as the underlying product or the platform. So the product, the underlying business was buying and selling metal from the London metal market. And that was approved as Sharia compliant. But on review, some scholars started saying, no, we have some doubts about this. Can we move to another platform? So actually, a product though that was approved then as Sharia compliant, Tawarruk is Sharia compliant, but the test is what is the underlying business here. Okay? So you find that if you have been a keen follower of Islamic banking on Tawarruk, now the platform has moved to Malaysia. The Bursa Malaysia there, and the commodity is the crude oil, the crude palm oil. So most financial institutions today in Kenya, they will use that as the underlying commodity. The London Metal Exchange also did some changes also to alleviate or to allay the fear that was being raised by scholars that maybe there was some element of non-compliance. So again, you find that even the scholars, the Sharia scholars there, they had to review the product, they had to review the transaction there, and they had to give another fatwa also. So it keeps on changing. So review is ongoing, always ongoing. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, thank you. The second question is, how do you address the ethical concerns raised by clients who may question the authenticity of Islamic banking within the larger commercial bank?
Yes, I know this is a question that we have always faced. And I've had to answer that question within Kenya and outside Kenya, because the argument by the Muslims, and it's a very genuine concern, and actually I'm happy that Muslims raised that. Because for a Muslim, it's not just that transaction, it's about the faith. I know that I will be answerable before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We know that the four basic questions that each one of us have to answer before Allah on the day of Qiyamah is, one of them is about your wealth. How did you earn it? How did you spend it? Na mbele ya Mwenyezi Mungu hakuna kitu kidogo, there are no shortcuts. There isn't something like you belong to this political party or that political party. You'll be alone and you have to answer that question. So it's very sensitive and we have to respond to those questions. So the question, the big elephant in the house has been this. We have a conventional commercial bank. How can it give birth to a window that claims to be Sharia compliant? I think that is the question we're asking here. And some people would even ask that very good question, but genuine. And I even raised it the other day, and Elizabeth was saying, what a question. But that is the question. You know, Muslims are big products. You know how it is, Gurue. Actually, you can call a Muslim any name, but it's Wite Gurue. Wite Levi and Nini, but Yaman Gurue. So they would want to compare a conventional bank as something haram. It's like pork or Gurue. Then they'll ask you, Gurue anawezaje kumzaa mbuzi? Because mbuzi is halal, Gurue is haram. Now, again here, for a person outside the banking industry, or a scholar, even a Muslim scholar, who is not conversant with the way banks operate, that sounds a very genuine question. Even some of them would say, the Quran tells us, فَأْتُوا الْبُيُوتَ مِنْ أَبْوَابِهَا. When you are entering a house, you don't go through the window. So you're telling us about windows. The Quran tells us about the door. So they compare a full-fledged Islamic bank as the door, and then a window, like a river or the others, as a window. Now, that question sounds very okay for a person who does not understand. But when you understand how Islamic financial institutions operate, then the answer is very simple and it's Sharia compliant. And I can tell you, without any fear of contradiction, how a conventional bank is able to establish a window that is Sharia compliant. And you know you need resources. Because you need resources, you wonder, where do you get the capital to initiate the window? That is the question. Of course, from the mother bank, then you say, what is the underlying contract between the conventional bank? So it is true, Qard Hasana. Now, let me ask you, as a Muslim, can you borrow money based on Qard Hasana, or have you ever borrowed money from a person who is not a Muslim on the basis of Qard Hasana? Lend me 20,000 shillings. I will refund back 20,000 shillings. Is that Sharia compliant or not? Is that Sharia compliant? Yes, you borrow from any person. Is that Sharia compliant?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. Now,
It is.
So it is on the basis of current hasana that the conventional bank puts in capital on the basis of current hasana, and that is how the Islamic bank operates within a conventional bank. Then within the bank itself, the systems are totally separated. And that's why you find there is a team here that you can say, this is the La Riba team. This is the ABSA team. This is the La Riba team. These are the people within the bank that ensures whatever is La Riba is not mixed up with what is not La Riba. So even the system, the technology, maybe you'll be able to answer to that, is totally separated. So we have this big bank, but within it, we have this Sharia-compliant window. And I'll give this analogy. You get into a restaurant that doesn't have an Islamic name. But within that restaurant, can you get Sharia-compliant food, halal food, within that restaurant? The answer is yes. What will be your concern? I want to know the source of the food from the kitchen, how it was slaughtered, how it was cooked, the oil in which it was cooked. But it doesn't matter who is serving. It could be a lady in a micro miniskirt serving that food. Does that make the food haram? No. As long as the processing of that food, you can see Ramla is looking at me. Yes, in most restaurants you find young ladies with micro miniskirts. They will serve you food, but it is halal. So you find a chef like me enjoying the food. I am enjoying it because the process is halal. So that is what I will answer. So I want to assure you, within ABSA, the Gen Zs, you know what the Gen Zs? Yeah, the Gen Zs who are their technology, we don't ask how do they separate. But for me, I am satisfied that there is that separation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chef. Yes.
Just one addition to what the Chef said on that question. Scholars globally have actually given a guideline on how a bank like ABSA can come up with Islamic proposition that is Sharia compliant. And in general, there are some 7 conditions that are set. Some 7. One of it is there must be a Sharia board. Independent Sharia scholars that advise us. That's one of the conditions. Another condition is we must have a team that understands Sharia within the organization, which we have. I just showed Sheikh Hassan here. He keeps disappearing. Then the third condition is there must be commitment from the owners of the bank, the senior management. You've seen our area, the ABSA regional operations CEO, you've seen our country CEO, you've seen our director. The commitment from the bank is there. The other condition is there must be total separation of the two funds. The deposit that we have on the Islamic side should not and must not be mixed with the other one or used in doing the conventional lending. The fifth condition, there must be a system that can adhere to the Sharia guidelines, because you can put kids into a system, it comes out on the other end as conventional. The other condition which has been put there is there must be protection of the customer deposits. Because in contract like Mudaraba, as a customer you give us money as Mudaraba basis, you work with the money, you get profit, we share. If there's loss, you also lose your money. But you see now, it doesn't operate that way, especially in some countries, you must protect customers' savings. So scholar says, yes, use the Sharia contract, but let's use the contract that also protects customer savings. And of course, the other one is, which is critical, those standards which are set globally. We have standard setting bodies like IOFI, the accounting and auditing organizations, financial institutions. It's important, it's in Bahrain. If most of the Sharia scholars we talk to, they are IOFI certified. That's like big CPAK, Islamic finance. So it's a non-profit making organization globally. So those are the 7 conditions. So the first question, if you look to any organization today, insurance, capital market, ASACO, they tell you we are Islamic. The test is just check if those 7 conditions are there. If none of them is there, then there's no Islamic, just a name. If they have 5 and they're missing one, still there's a problem. The 7 conditions are the bare minimum. And we have done the 7 conditions in this bank, and we have even gone beyond and even had more. And those are the conditions that are there to give the comfort. And it doesn't mean the fully fledged don't follow. They still follow the same conditions. But for them, some things don't apply. For instance, they don't need to segregate because every fund there is fully Islamic. Thank you.
Thank you, Tango and Chef. I think cognizant of time and Salah, we can have parting shots from the panelists. So I'd love to hear a few parting shots from each one of you, starting with Ziad, and then we can proceed.
Again, just thank you very much. As Visa, we are really delighted to be able to be a part of the launch of this product and the proposition. Really, I think I will leave it for my colleagues at ABSA to conclude, but again, from Visa, we're really delighted to be a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think for me, my parting shot is a very short portion of a verse from Surah Al-Baqarah, which Allah tells us, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم دخولوا في السلم كافة. That verse is just 2 words, right? 3 words. دخولوا في السلم كافة. If you are a Muslim, become a Muslim 100%. Don't become a Muslim that goes to the mosque, but transacts. His open account in a conventional bank, his money is in a conventional bank. Don't be a Muslim that is going to the mosque, but his mobile loans are not Islamic. Don't be a Muslim man that stands for tahajjud, but when the wife is sick, he takes him to have a male doctor. And we don't have shortage of female Muslim or non-Muslim doctors. Don't be that Muslim man that comes out of the mosque and is playing music in his car. Don't be that Muslim man who has purchased his car on a Shariah-Compliant facility but is using conventional insurance. We are Muslim both inside the mosque, on the road, in the house, in the sitting room, in the bedroom, in our shops, even in our sleeping. The Prophet says, the Sunnah that we've had from various hadith, you're going to your bed, you sleep on the right, if possible you sleep on the wudu, you recite the dua, speak Allahumma amutu ahya, and you wake up, it's awake, you wake up. There are Muslims every time and in everything. So let's not pick. Let's not focus so much on saying now I'm a Muslim. And even outside this banking and other things, we have other ills that's very common with Muslims, the issue of Asamiya, for instance. Racism, tribalism, clanism. We are Muslims. And our Millah is Millah of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the Quran and Sunnah. Our colors and everything is just identity. So let us keep it Islamic in our banking. Let's keep it Islamic. Even the radios we listen to. I don't know whether we listen to Islamic FM stations or we like enjoying music. So it full of Islamic cover for me as a parting shot. Thank you.
My parting shot is this. I feel very blessed as a Kenyan Muslim, and I keep on telling people I am not a Kenyan Muslim by accident. I'm sure you've heard that somebody else saying that it is by Allah's divine grand plan that I'm in Kenya today. Why am I saying that? As I was growing up, as I was in school, even at university, I never thought in my lifetime I would see an institution, a financial institution, offering services that are in conformity with my belief. Takbir. No, I want us to know. Takbir. Today, alhamdulillah, we have institutions offering Islamic banking. I never thought it would happen in my lifetime. What were the options open to us then? For those carefree Muslims, they didn't mind eating riba. And those who cared a little bit, they looked for fatwas about barura, the law of necessity. We have been forced by circumstances. Today, we have institutions that are offering, and I'm not saying they are perfect, No human institution is perfect. But we have no excuse anymore. So for you who is still transacting in riba, I don't know what you tell Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of Qiyamah. Again, I never thought in my lifetime I would tune a radio station and hear Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. From 2001, Alhamdulillah, the first Islamic owned radio station, Iqra FM, which is represented here by the MD himself, Dr. Bahaida is here, and some of the leading journalists within Iqra. And I want to plead, I'm not doing marketing for Iqra, but I would blame riba if you rush to the big or the so-called big stations to advertise and you leave. Yeah. So Iqra support La Riba and La Riba support Iqra. And you should know the listenership that Bahaida has. And today, because of technology, you know, sometimes they are in a radio station, they don't know that I'm watching them. I watch them also. It's a radio station, but you can see, he has gone online. You know, it's not old, it's close to Gen Z. Very innovative. So, La Riba, can you support Iqra? I'm marketing for them now. And can you also support La Riba so that we can grow together? Finally, Islamic finance is not for Muslims only. This morning I was listening to a lecture by a Malaysian scholar in Islamic finance. It has been established that in Malaysia, 50% of the consumers of Islamic products are not Muslims. One of the leading banks offering Islamic finance globally is Mayfair Bank in Malaysia. It is owned by Chinese. You can Google. So please, our brothers and sisters who are not Muslims, just like you go to Muslim restaurants to get that taste, arrosto, biryani, pilau, come and get a financial pilau, arrosto, and halal meat. So I wanted to correct that misconception. Islamic finance is not only for Muslims, it's for everyone. Finally, can we all pray for peace in this country? Allah bless you all.
Thank you so much to our panelists and everyone in the room today. You can give yourselves a round of applause for our panelists and yourself. So just to close this off, our key points, we've had a lot of simple but powerful things. That faith and innovation can grow together, and that inclusion means building together. Asanteni sana, we open doors for you, and thank you very much to everyone.